Everyone, this is Aaran Anderson, who is a PE teacher at Madras College, but also the principal teacher for Closing the Gap. Thank you, Aaran.
Thanks, Suzanne. Guys, 2 seconds, I'm just getting my screen ready. Can I just get a thumbs up in the chat if you can see my PowerPoint, please?
I'll go for it.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, folks.
We're going to get 500 to them now.
Yeah, I know. Give that a moment. Right, guys. Firstly, as Suzanne said, I'm Aaran Anderson at Madras College. I'm just here today to share with you some of the ways that I've delivered certificated PE remotely and some of the Microsoft tools that I've used in both live lessons but also with my actual team as well to help monitor and track. So the key things that I'll share today, I'm also conscious that I've only got 15 minutes and there was so much that I could go into, so I felt it was best just to go and share with you what I've worked and what's worked well for me. But I am happy to share my email and this PowerPoint later on if there's further questions, and if I can answer them and help, then I certainly will. So the things that I'll cover today is what do I do in a live lesson. I do a lot of Microsoft forms to develop and also assess knowledge in conjunction with PowerPoints just to break things up and try and stimulate some interaction from the kids. And finally, I'll go over Microsoft Teams and some of the monitoring and tracking tools that I use to both gauge engagement but also learning. Very quickly, I'm just going to dive straight in. Microsoft Teams, so for those who are unfamiliar with live lessons, when you come to your general page on Microsoft Teams where all your conversation takes place, on the top right of the screen inside the black box, so I'm just going to hover my cursor over it, you've got the Meet icon. If you click on Meet, you could then get yourself into this picture here on the right hand side, and that is you setting up the meeting. So what you could do is you can retitle the name, so I always try and retitle it to whatever the topic is we're covering that day, the learning intention. And then as well as that, just make sure, because I've done this a few times, make sure your audio's turned on. But as well as that, just little things to jazz it up. And if you click on these 3 dots here, you'll get the option to download attendance. And if you just click on that, that then just automatically downloads to your computer and it shows when pupils entered your lesson, but also when they exited it as well. So it's quite good for tracking engagement throughout the lesson. As well as that, a thing that I like about it is that if you know, obviously through doing that register, that pupils haven't turned up yet, you can go and call them and request that they join you. So for example, Mr. Fraser didn't join my lesson once, so I went and clicked on request to join just in this yellow box here. I click on that, and then this is what he gets on his mobile. So on the app, he gets a notification. If he's not got his mobile there, he will get the same notification come up on his laptop. And if he just clicks on that, that allows him to enter the waiting room for the Teams meeting. So it's quite good for chasing kids up as well. Again, I'll keep this bit quite brief, just in terms of sharing your screen, which is obviously something we all want to do. Quite simply, I've got it circled, on the white square here next to leave. If you just click on that, it's like an arrow going into a box, that'll allow you to share your screen. And then I always go for the desktop option just because, like I said, I'm flicking in and out of PowerPoints and forms. I've also sometimes got a Kahoot for the end of my lesson as well, so I prefer using the desktop just because it's easier for me to get in and out. But however, you can just put it straight to a PowerPoint if you wish. Just looking very briefly at some of the pedagogy, Doug Lemov, teaching the online classroom, lots of podcasts now. He's also on Twitter. He's phenomenal. For me, as a PE teacher, as a practical teacher as well, learned so much from him. But he's also recently wrote about teaching the online classroom. Here are some of the things, not everything, but here are some of the things that he does that I try and incorporate in my lessons. So I'll always start after that register with retrieval practice, and I'll do that through a Microsoft form. I'm going to show you copy and paste your Microsoft form link into your chat and your lesson. when I'm doing that retrieval practice, I'm using a variety of different questions, just revisiting what they've done in previous weeks, and also from even several months ago. It's just low stakes. There's nothing competitive as such about it. It's just about seeing if they can bring that information back to the forefront of their mind. Throughout the lesson, the big thing for me is checking and rechecking understanding, even more so now. We're not in that physical environment, we're in this remote environment. So the ways that I'll form and I'll feedback on that. However, I'll also cold call during the lesson, so I'll be picking pupils at random to answer. That's been an absolute godsend for finding out what kids are actually engaging in the lesson, those that are playing Call of Duty in the background. Brilliant for that. I'll also be making sure that I'm explaining what is correct and why it's correct, or what is incorrect, why it's incorrect, or how it can be corrected in the chat as well as verbalising that. And, I'll be using the thumbs up in the chat where people self-evaluate themselves. They will use quite a lot of emojis, so thumbs up, thumbs down. For those who are on their phone at the time, they can use a green, red or yellow circle just to denote, even if you like a traffic light, to denote their understanding. And obviously that's addressed before we move on. In terms of pupil interaction, like I said, I use the chat. I also have kids raising their hand throughout the lesson, and when they feel comfortable and if the permission is there, they can switch their mic on and verbalise their question or their answer. However, I have been requested to share how to use breakout rooms. My local 45 council does not allow it, unfortunately. However, I will give you a brief overview of how to do it, and I'll show you what could work to actually stimulate some meaningful discussion and learning in there. And I always try and finish with a fun ending with quizzes, Quizlet or Kahoot. So the Microsoft form, just to get it into the chat to start with, again, I apologise for those who may be a bit more advanced than this. Okay, if you click on at the top of your page, there is the speech bubble, if you like, just that text icon. If you click on that, the meeting chat will open on the right-hand side. To share your form, what I'll do is I'll just take you to the right-hand side here. If you click on share in the black box, the one thing I would say that's very important that you do is that you make sure when you share the form, you set it to only people in my organisation can respond. And the reason for that is because you will then see their names when you go and review their answers at the end. What I have found is that when I've ticked the option to anybody with the link can respond, it means that when I'm reviewing their answer at the end, there's actually not a name beside it. So I don't know who's written what, and that's obviously problematic. So you copy and paste that link into the chat. As well as that, though, you can also create duplicate copies for other members of your department. So if you're the person in charge of producing resources that week, you can share an additional copy, which means that other teachers have their own copy and they're not editing what you've done. All right, so you've still got yours and they have their own for their own class. And then for moderation tasks, I've found this to be excellent. Microsoft Forms. If you go to share to collaborate, that allows you to copy and paste a link that allows other teachers to see the same form and edit the same form as you. So when we're moderating pupil answers, for example, as part of moderation, and we're discussing things about our own teaching and learning practice and the quality that we're looking for when marking as a group, this is an excellent tool to do that. Just going on the questioning, I will try and use a variety of different questions on my Microsoft form. Now, the way I try and do it is, I will direct pupils to questions on the form as I work through my PowerPoint. So on slide 1, it might say go and answer questions 1, 2 and 3. And I'll try and use a variety of different question types. And I'm going to share some of those with you, like choice, text and rating to date. Just a little thing, if you want to jazz up your Microsoft form, if you click on the red box here where it says theme, if you click on that, you can select a different background, even upload your own background to it. So I've went with this remote learning one, if you want to call it that, just to try and jazz up a bit. It's a bit more appealing for the kids to complete. So looking at feedback as well here and setting up a multiple choice question. When you're setting your Microsoft form, you have the choice to create a form or a quiz. I personally prefer a quiz, because it allows you to automatically generate the number of points that pupils can gain, and it also marks it for them based on you supplying the correct answer. so they get that immediate feedback as well. And I'll show you how we do that. One thing to draw yourself to, though, at attention is just in this red circle here, we've got, I think Brian mentioned it earlier, but it's on all Microsoft education tools, and I've found this to be excellent, just that book with a loudspeaker in it, and if pupils click on that, it actually reads out what the question is to the pupils. So I found that very useful for pupils who, you know, struggle at home with their reading, for example, don't have that additional support that they normally would in class. That's very good for them. If you go to the right, the one thing I love about this with multiple choice is that obviously when you give the options, you can obviously tick the green tick to denote it's the correct answer. But the big thing I love about it is this little red square here, that little text icon. If you were to click on that, you could then issue feedback. So I'll always say if something's correct, why it's correct. So look there underneath PPW, I've said it's correct and why. Okay. Equally, if it's incorrect, I've said why it's incorrect and also how it could be improved. And that just gives people that immediate feedback once they've submitted their responses. Just little things to note. If you click on required, it means they must complete the question before they move on. And also just to be mindful, multiple choice, if there's more than one correct answer, tick on multiple answers. And then that then allows the pupil, to pick more than one response they think's correct. And finally, always put in on the quiz how many points are available. But the key thing there is when they've then submitted that, they get that immediate feedback after they've done it. In terms of generating discussion, one of the things that I used to do quite a lot of, still do now in the physical classroom, is be the examiner tasks. And that's just where I'll put an answer on the board and I'll make sure it's never correct. It's maybe got some elements that are correct. If it was a 4-mark response, for example, it's maybe 2 or 3 out of 4. There's always an area that pupils need to discuss why it's correct and also why it's incorrect and how it can be improved. So if you just look here as part of a retrieval practice, I have provided one analytical response, as in just a 1-mark response there. There's 3 sentences and I've used the rating function, and pupils need to denote which sentence gets a star if it's good enough. In terms of using your live lesson, now I normally just do this through the chat. I'll cold call somebody to share their answer with me. However, if you were wanting to use breakout rooms, what you do is, it's maybe actually better to see on the right hand side here, just where my cursor is, there is a small square within a square. You click on that, okay, and this on the left comes up, and then you can select how many rooms that you would like to organise. I always, when I'm doing cooperative learning or group work tasks when I am in the physical classroom, I try to have no more than 4 to a group. So if I was doing this here, I would want to try and have a multiple of 4. And as well as that, you can click automatically, which means that the pupils are automatically assigned to a room, or you can manually do it yourself. Automatically is obviously much better for a time saver. One thing if I'm thinking about this, if I was using it, I would be doing this while they were doing the retrieval practice on the form, just so it's good and it's ready to go, so then I could get that immediate start and we're not wasting time, just get a better flow to the lesson. As soon as you hit create rooms, pupils are then assigned to their rooms. And then if you are not happy with the rooms that have been generated, if you clicked on those 3 dots there, you could then move pupils so it's a more appropriate grouping. All right, now, as well as this, you have got you need to dip yourself in and out the rooms to see how the pupils are actually working. Okay, and then once you hit on close rooms at the end, that would bring everybody out and back to the main screen. Again, like I said, if it's looking at teaching and learning, I would always put an actual quote up that maybe causes some debate. So it might be, for example, qualitative information is always better than quantitative information when collecting data on the emotional factor. So I would put some sort of quote up that encourages discussion, or that be the examiner task. That's something I would do if I was using breakout rooms. But that's just me personally. What's really good, particularly for factors impacting performance, is inserting media on your forms. You can also do it on PowerPoint as well, but I'll show you on the form. So all you would do is when you're making up the question, on the insert media, sorry, somebody got their mic on. If you click on insert media, And then all would come up on the right of that would give you the option of an image or a video. You would click on video, and then you would just copy and paste the video URL in from YouTube, and you would add it, and it gets automatically embedded into your form. And the reason I prefer that is because I initially didn't do that, and pupils were flicking between a form and also another screen. So I felt like just that little bit of losing their attention wasn't great for me. So factors impacting performance, I like having the video embedded in the form so they could watch it and answer at the same time without having to leave that location. This is obviously a text response, so again required hit, but also hit long answer, particularly for questions that are analyse, evaluate, where there's that little bit more writing required. So I would be hitting long answer, and that just allows the pupil to give a more in-depth response. So I've talked, sorry, I know it's a bit of a whirlwind, I've talked quite a bit there about Microsoft Forms and how we try and provide feedback in and through the lesson on both the form of the multiple choice question feedback, but also in terms of people self-evaluating as we go, cold calling throughout the lesson, and also just simply verbalising responses with the hand up icon, that way that we're always assessing. But here at the end of the lesson, what you can do just to check their understanding again is that once they've hit submit, when you go to your form overview, you've got questions and responses. If you click on responses, as you can see in this orange box here, it automatically generates all the responses into some sort of infographic. So for example, we look at question 1 to form my pupils did. I can see that 18 out of 21, so 6% of kids have done it. I could see that 18 have given me the correct answer. However, I could see that one's talked about describe when they should have been analysed, and 2 have spoke about evaluate. So if I want to really go in there and target those pupils and help develop their knowledge and correct them, what I would do, and obviously they've had the feedback as well, but it also informs me of their progress too, is that I would click on more details. And as I said at the start, by selecting that box with the form, anybody in my organisation can respond. I see the pupil's name here. Now, if I go to pupil 4, I would have their name, and then I could see that pupil 4 was the person who got that incorrect. So that just allows me to have that discussion and correct that. In terms of assignments, again, I'm just moving a bit more on to track, and I'm trying to just cover a wider range here rather than just the live lessons. So tracking in terms of engagement and also in terms of learning is so important for us at the moment. As much evidence as we can get. So very briefly, when creating assignments, just because I've spoke quite a bit about the Microsoft form, what you can do is if you go to create in this orange box here and hit quiz, you could then have the choice to select a Microsoft form and set that as the assignment. And again, that comes with the pupil feedback in there that was set as a quiz. And you can also go in there and mark it yourself too. A tab that you can add that I find absolutely brilliant on Microsoft Teams is grades. So when you're on the general page, you'll have an addition icon. You would click on that, it's at the top of your page where the tabs are. You would click on that, you'd go to grades and you'd add grades in. And what you get is what's on the right hand side here. And it's almost like a spreadsheet, if you like, flashes up. And it tells you the pupil's score on every single assignment that they've done. It allows to pinpoint areas that are very good, so therefore maybe that doesn't require as much revision. However, areas where they've had a bit of a shocker, that's something you could feedback when reporting to parents, and also to when you're having your learning discussions with them on what they can be working on a bit more when revising for any upcoming assignments. As well as that, if we just look at my modern evaluating one, where just to give the sort of point out what it actually is, where the numbers there, that tells you that I've given a score and I've issued feedback. Where it says handed in means that they have done it, but I've yet to mark it. Where it says viewed, it would tell me they've seen it, however, they've not actually went and done it. And at the there's not on your screen, but you've also got not handed in. And what I love about this is that I can preempt pupils before the assignment deadline. So if I see a pupil who has not handed something in or who has viewed something, I can go to them 24 hours before it and drop my wee email and say, look, get your backside into gear, this is due in 24 hours, make sure you're getting this done. And I've found that a great tool because they know that I'm on to them, all right? And it just helps me improve engagement, and then by improving engagement, it gives me something to mark that then in turn improves learning. couple options if you don't want to do a live lesson, which is absolutely fine. I mean, there's absolutely no need, there's no mandatory requirement to do the live lesson, or if there's something comes up on a day you're scheduled to have your class, you can't do a live lesson. What you could do is that there's a couple of things. You've got Screencast-O-Matic, which is probably a webinar in itself. You've also got Loom, which I'm happy to share some resources with if I give you my email afterwards. But what you've also got is, one of the things I do quite a lot is, if you were to go to insert on your PowerPoint and go all the way to the right, click on this audio God, got my words mixed up there. Click on that amplifier if you like, click on that, go down to record audio, and then on each slide you could just speak into the slide and you could give that verbal instruction as well as what they're reading to really solidify and deepen knowledge, rather than then just reading off a screen having to interpret themselves. You could go that wee bit further. As well as that, I've not actually got it on here, but I should have done, being a bit of a donut, I should have done it. But if you click on slideshow, and then what you would have coming underneath there is the option to record, and that would allow you to actually have your face in the screen, and you could talk through the PowerPoint as well if you like. If I'm being brutally honest, folks, I do one or the other. I don't do both. I do a live lesson. I find personally when I record audio, because I get annoyed at myself if I say something incorrectly, I find myself spending ages putting the audio clips in if I get it wrong. However, if I know I'm not making a live lesson, I will do that for these kids so they've got something there to listen to. If you do both, I personally just find it a lot of work, considering the timetable that we're all following at the moment. The very last thing, sorry, I know about time here, that I want to point out, just to again track, monitor and engagement, and also performance if you like, is the Insights tab. So as I said before, you've got an addition icon at the top of your page. You'll get this Insights one. This has been brilliant for me for all levels, BGE, Nat 5 higher. If you click on Insights, and then what it does is it just gives you an overview of the pupils that have been in your class that week. So if I was to click on track student activity, then if there was a red dot next to their name, that would then tell me that they have not been online in my class at all at any point that week. As well as that, it gives you an overview of every single day, a breakdown of every single day they've been in. So there's a little purple line here that tells me they were in that day. The thicker the line, as you can see here, the thicker the line, the longer they were online. Just one thing to know about Insights is, maybe somebody could help me, the people more knowledgeable than me here on this webinar. It doesn't seem to work with an iPhone for some reason on the app. I don't know if that's something Microsoft are looking at, but maybe somebody in the chat can maybe pinpoint me as well as anybody else how to overcome that. And that, folks, is me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron, so much for sharing all of your resources and your tools and how they've worked for yourself as a practitioner, and also critically for your pupils. I saw in the chat there that people are asking for longer sessions or splitting the sessions into a Google's Classroom or a Microsoft Teams. We can certainly set that up if Aaron and Ian were happy to do another session. We are planning